You know, Kamari Lassiter was largely ignored in Rookie of the Year discussions and other types of awards for rookies last year. And I think partly because he's a cornerback who was a second round pick, and cornerbacks, especially, just typically have crazily awesome physical traits. And Kamari didn't test as well as his performance on the field. That's why I really loved this answer when he was asked about the potentially season the defense this season.
I don't believe in potential, to be honest. It's either you do it or you don't. So we don't really think about the potential. We don't think about what it could be. We focus on working every day, focusing on our technique, getting better with each other, grinding with each other, and making sure that the product that we put on the field on Sundays is what it's supposed to be.
It's as simple as that. Now, he was talking about the team in general, and most of the defensive players have said pretty much the exact same thing. Hey, we got to start over. There's no wash, rinse, repeat, all of that. It's hard for me not to interpret that kind of potential as BS talk from Kamari Lassiter and not think it applies to himself personally when people has questioned his potential based on his 40 time or whatever it might be. So much of being a cornerback is about anticipation, is about football IQ, is about all those things. How well do you use your hands? And Kamari does a really good job with all of that. The second half of last season, he really took off and he just started to play like a veteran. So that part of it excites me. If you think about the fact last year that Kamari was playing on a defense that had C.J. Henderson and Jeff Okudah, two former high first-round picks, top 10 caliber picks, elite physical traits, but they can't tie it all together. Kamari, I think, takes a lot of pride in trying to be more like Derek Stingley, trying to emulate Derek Stingley. A guy's just so technically proficient. So I'm really excited for him this year. He was asked, what is the biggest difference between himself now and last year?
I would say the biggest difference between myself now and last year is last year, I was just more like wide-eyed. Like I didn't really know what to expect. I was just coming out here trying to prove myself. And I'm not saying that I've proven myself, but I'm still proving myself. But it's like I understand what's going on. I have a better idea of, what's like the task at hand today. Like I have a better process. I'm a better pro than I was last year. So it's like when I come in, I understand what I need to do. Like my morning routine is better. My afternoon routine is better. My sleep schedule is better. It's just like everything is starting to just come in the flow. The game is slowing down for me. Everything is moving a little bit slower. I'm able to move faster. I'm able to understand the nuances of the defense that we're running. So it's just like everything is starting to just progress up.
This is one thing that I think D'Amico has done an incredible job with is giving these guys a plan for how to improve and putting it into manageable chunks. Because I can remember as a player kind of just being on my own and kind of lost as to what do I need to improve at? I think I need to improve at everything. Okay, I'm going to improve at everything all at once every day. And it's easy to get overwhelmed or burnt out, especially when most good defensive players have a little bit of touch of the ADHD. You want to have just at least a little touch of the ADHD. So D'Amico does a great job of giving them these pro-grow tapes, giving them specific action items, and then as a former player, obviously, also he knows the value of routine and can preach it to them. They put really great veterans on this defense to teach those guys about it. And that first complete offseason you have, you're kind of off on your own. It's the first time in your life you've had a lot of free time, really. No matter how much or how little you work at your academics in college, you still don't have as much free time. Plus, you're only allowed at the facility a certain number of days. My God, what's going on here? I'm in a great Airbnb in Eugene, Oregon, but finally I have good internet, but I can't get my lighting equipment to work. So I'm excited. I think he's exactly in the mold of all these other guys they've managed to put on this team, guys who take their job really, really seriously. Last question about him personally, on the work he did in the offseason, if it's helped him during training camp.
I really think that my offseason really helped me. I don't think I've ever stopped working. Like I was from the day that we lost, I probably took a couple days off because they made me, and then I got right back to it. Like I've been itching to get back on the field, so it's just like all that training and all the work that I've been putting in the offseason and last season, really my whole life, I'm just trying to show that on the field every day.
All right, one of you said you can barely hear me, so I turned my levels up. Hopefully, let me know. Let me know if that's a consistent issue with you guys. The work he did in the offseason, in this defense especially, where now, aside from learning the NFL, aside from learning from Derek Stingley, but now also being comfortable in the defense. That's what I'm excited about. They did some good things last year where they disguised their coverages. These last couple years, really, we've seen a progression from the first game to the last game where they've added some complexity and they've tweaked things a little bit. Some of they ran an inverted cover 2 on that one of those Tua Tagovailoa picks. That was the Kalen Bullock interception. The stuff that the young guys can pick up on towards the end of the year. Hopefully they can build on that. Yes, you start from scratch every year. But when you have 2 rookies in the secondary, there's only so much disguising and swapping that you really want to do. You think about the fact that Derek Stingley was able to track the best receiver from left to right across the field. The hard part of that isn't for Derek Stingley as much as it is for the younger players and a guy like Kamari Lassiter. Instead of him being able to just stay on one side of the field his entire rookie year, he had to learn how to swap back and forth. And because he was able to do that, Derek Stingley was able to follow the best receiver. Something that first year we were wondering why they weren't doing more of it. That's obviously they're going to build on that. And then hopefully as Kamari continues to develop, you don't necessarily always have to lean into that because you've got 2 studs back there in the secondary. Next question was Kamari Lassiter on Christian Kirk, the slot receiver that they traded for from Jacksonville this past offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching Christian Kirk since he was at A&M, and he's been elite this entire time. And I know that's a long time ago. And just playing against him last year, obviously I didn't get to guard him much because he was more an inside guy. But just seeing how he works every day, like he's a real pro. And it shows why he's been so good for so long. Like just seeing his work ethic, seeing how he approaches every day, his routes, his attention to detail, that makes me better, whenever I get to go up against him. And then that makes whoever's going up on the inside also better.
A couple of things I'm excited about with Christian Kirk, if he can stay healthy. That's always been the big if with Christian Kirk. When he was healthy, the first year he was in Jacksonville, he was great. He was phenomenal. And he wasn't working with a great quarterback, or at least he wasn't working in a great offense. We'll leave it at that. So the one thing is him as a tutor and a mentor for Jalen Noel. Christian Kirk isn't like an old veteran that knows he's on his way out or anything, but he seems to be wired to be the kind of guy that's going to help the younger guys out. Slot receiver takes a lot of mental work, and in this offense especially, I say this offense, we don't know exactly what the offense is going to look like. We know that they're going to want to use option routes. They're going to want to be able to adjust the routes to the coverages and the leverages that they see. That's where slot receivers in some ways almost have to be as smart as quarterbacks, and they have to be on the same page as the quarterback. So you think about Nick Caley when he watched Tom Brady working with Julian Edelman, and some of the clips of Julian Edelman basically of Tom Brady coaching up Julian Edelman or Wes Welker, those guys, like a really good wide receivers coach. That's what one of Tom Brady's most underrated skills was that he was one of the best wide receiver coaches in the league. So having Jalen Noel, having Christian Kirk, both able to work with CJ Stroud, but then also Jalen Noel, but then also Jalen Smith, the rookie who's going to be playing a lot in the slot, Kamari when he's working down in the slot, the back and forth those guys have, that's got the potential to have a very good cumulative effect. Last question here. Asked how C.J. Gardner-Johnson has added another level of attitude to the defense. I don't think they need an infusion or an injection of attitude. They already have a good chunk of attitude. But here's how he answered it.
Obviously, for one, he's a great football player. He's been playing ball for a long time, and just his mentality, the way he loves the game. Like you can say what you want to say about C.J., but he really loves the game of football, and it shows every day. Like. You can see how he attacks plays, how he wants to know, how he's asking questions, how whenever we're on the field, he's communicating. He's excited for guys whenever we're making plays. I'm excited for him whenever he's making plays. It's just like just adding another dog, like you said, to the back end. That's never a bad thing.
I don't think there's any doubt about CJ Gardner-Johnson loving football or being passionate about it. If anything, he would tell you at times he's been a little too passionate about it. Based on interviews from CJ Gardner-Johnson alone, I'm not going off of reports of anybody else or anything, just interviews I've watched with him. It seems like there's 2 main categories of issues that perhaps he's had. One is interpersonal issues, either with teammates when he was younger or perhaps with coaches at times, whether they were his fault or somebody else's fault. I don't know. I don't care. He said that he's learned about how to handle some of those things perhaps a little bit better. And then the other is just it boiling over on the field sometimes to where he got ejected from the Commanders game last year. And then after that, really showed a lot of restraint in the playoffs. In the Super Bowl itself, he showed a lot of restraint. Travis Kelce tried to bait him, and he just stood there with his hands behind his back, I'm guessing giving kind of a smug grin at Travis Kelce. The Eagles did a great job of baiting the baiter. Travis Kelce was just trying everything he could to try to drop a flag from one of those guys, and they just did not take the bait. C.J. Gardner-Johnson included. So I'm not overly worried about it whatsoever. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is 27 years old. You can tell from his interviews that there's been some maturation, and I think in some respects, having a coach like DeMeco Ryans, who has a very high emotional intelligence quotient, I think he might have found a really good spot for himself. Looks like we got the sound issues cleared up. Thank you for alerting me to that. I'm going to try to do Nick Caley a little bit later today, and then a whole bunch of content tomorrow. We've only got these 2-hour shows from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. with Sean Pendergast. And we've got Nick Caserio on Tuesday in the morning, I believe at 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. or 7:20 a.m. Be sure you tune into Sports Radio 610 for that. If you haven't, please like, subscribe. I'm Seth Payne, played for the Texans in the first 5 years of the franchise, a period that many of you